In the grand theater of 20th century industry, the spotlight often falls on men who moved markets with a phone call, who built empires on foundations of stock and leverage. They were kings of the boardroom, their hands clean, their weapons contracts and legal clauses. This is not their story. This is the story of a man whose kingdom was forged in the searing heat of a workshop, whose decrees were written in blueprints, and whose crown was perpetually stained with oil and grease. This is the saga of Soichiro Honda, a man who built a global empire not by conquering others, but by conquering the laws of physics themselves. His epic does not begin with inherited wealth or a prestigious education, but in the humble, rhythmic clang of a blacksmith shop in the small village of Komio, Japan. Born in 1906 to Gihei and Mika Honda, his first memories were not of toys, but of tools. His father, Gihei, was a gifted and resourceful blacksmith who, unlike many artisans of his time, did not fear the encroaching machine age. Instead, he embraced it, becoming the local expert at repairing bicycles, a complex and expensive novelty that baffled most. The young Soichiro was his father's shadow, utterly mesmerized by the alchemy of the forge. He learned the secret language of metal not from books, but from its temperature, its vibrant color as it neared melting point, its specific ring under the hammer's blow. He watched his father fabricate replacement parts from raw steel, fix what was broken, and, most importantly, improve what was merely functional. The seed of innovation was planted in him not as an abstract concept, but as a daily, tangible practice. Then, one day, the future thundered past him in a cloud of dust and glory. A sputtering, coughing, magnificent Ford Model T, the first automobile he had ever laid eyes on, rattled through the unpaved streets of his village. While other children ran from the noise, Soichiro ran towards it, his heart pounding in his chest. He was transfixed. After the mechanical beast disappeared over the horizon, he noticed a dark, glistening drop of oil left behind on the ground. In what would become a legendary moment of his personal mythology, he got on his hands and knees and inhaled its scent deeply. To him, it was not dirt. It was a perfume from another world, a sacrament, a promise of speed and unimaginable power. This singular encounter solidified his destiny and rendered all other paths intolerable. School became a cage. His mind, which could instinctively visualize the intricate three-dimensional dance of gears, pistons, and levers, was suffocated by the flat, two-dimensional world of abstract characters and rote memorization. His report cards were a consistent disaster, earning him the nickname Black Nose from his teachers because he would often be found tinkering in a workshop when he should have been in the classroom. His rebellious and practical nature surfaced early. Frustrated by the need for his family's approval stamp on his poor report cards, he decided to engineer a solution. He carved a perfect replica of his family's seal out of an old rubber bicycle pedal. This small act of forgery was soon discovered, and his father, furious, demanded he apologize to his teachers. Honda's response was a stunning glimpse into his future character. He argued that the grade itself was the teacher's problem, but the quality of the forged seal was a matter of his own craftsmanship. He had made a perfect replica, and to his mind, that technical success was the more important achievement. At the tender age of 15, armed with this defiant spirit and little else, Soichiro made the momentous decision to leave home. He had seen a small advertisement in a magazine for Art Shokai, one of Tokyo's most esteemed and innovative auto repair shops. Packing a small bag with a change of clothes and a few tools, he journeyed to the bustling metropolis, a village boy on a pilgrimage to the heart of the machine. He was hired, but his dream was immediately and cruelly deferred. His first duties at Art Shokai were not rebuilding engines, but cleaning the workshop floors, and most humiliatingly, babysitting the owner's infant child. For many long months, his brilliant, restless hands were occupied with domestic chores, while the symphony of the workshop, the roar of engines, the whine of drills, the sharp crack of a welder, played on without him, a constant, tantalizing torture just beyond his reach. A lesser spirit would have been broken by the indignity and the frustration, returning home defeated. But Honda possessed a relentless, almost inhuman capacity for observation. He treated his time as an unpaid apprenticeship in absorption. He watched every repair, he listened to every diagnosis whispered between the senior mechanics, and he mentally cataloged every single part, every tool, and every process. He was learning with his eyes and his ears, his mind racing far ahead of his hands, building a vast internal library of mechanical knowledge. The Great Kanto earthquake of 1923, a devastating tragedy that laid waste to much of Tokyo, became his unlikely opportunity. In the chaotic aftermath, much of the regular staff was unable to return to work. The shop was overwhelmed with repairs. The owner, in desperation, finally turned to the quiet boy who had been watching so intently from the sidelines. He was unleashed into the mechanical sanctum. His talent was not just evident, it was explosive. The theories and procedures he had mentally rehearsed for months were executed with an intuitive grace and speed that stunned the veterans. He didn't just fix cars, he seemed to understand them on a fundamental level, often diagnosing complex problems by sound and feel alone, like a doctor listening to a patient's heartbeat. The babysitter had, almost overnight, become the workshop's prodigy. Over the next 6 years, he became the star mechanic of Art Shokai, his reputation spreading throughout Tokyo's burgeoning car culture. But his ambition was rapidly shifting from repair to creation. He saw the growing world of motor racing not just as a sport, but as the ultimate laboratory, a crucible where engineering theories were tested by fire and speed. He became obsessed with building a machine that could win. After his apprenticeship ended, he opened a branch of Art Shokai in his hometown of Hamamatsu. There, after hours, he and a small, dedicated team began a secret project. They scavenged parts from every corner of the workshop. The heart of their creation was an immense war-surplus Curtiss-Wright V8 engine, an 8.2-liter monster originally designed for an airplane. Their audacious goal was to shoehorn this beast into a custom-built car chassis and take it to the track. It was a Frankenstein's monster of a car, a testament to pure, unadulterated ambition. Honda was not just the lead engineer, he became the driver. Behind the wheel, he was a man possessed, with no apparent concept of fear or self-preservation. The racetrack was his canvas, and he painted with strokes of breathtaking speed and terrifying risk. He was testing not just the limits of his car, but the very limits of physics and his own mortality. In 1936, at the All-Japan Speed Rally held at the Tamagawa Speedway, those limits pushed back, savagely. While attempting a daring overtake at over 70 miles per hour, his car was clipped by a slower vehicle. The machine he had built with his own hands became a tumbling coffin of metal and fire, flipping through the air before crashing violently. Honda was thrown clear, but the price of his ambition was a broken body. His left wrist was shattered, his shoulder dislocated, and his face permanently scarred. His brother, Benjiro, who was riding as his mechanic, was also severely injured. Lying in a hospital bed for months, his racing dreams shattered along with his bones, he was forced to confront his own mortality. The life of a race car driver was over. It was during this period of painful, forced inactivity that a visitor sparked a new idea. A friend visiting him in the hospital complained about the abysmal quality of domestically produced piston rings, a critical engine component. The burgeoning Japanese auto industry was plagued by faulty parts, forcing a reliance on expensive, hard-to-get imports. A piston ring was not a glamorous part, but it was the heart of an engine's performance. A new fire was lit in Honda's mind. The path to performance was not just through driving, but through the perfection of the components that created that performance. He would not just race, he would build the very heart of the engine. In 1937, having left Art Shokai, he founded his first company, Tokai Seiki, dedicated to this single, unglamorous but essential purpose. With the supreme self-confidence of a self-taught genius, he believed his hands-on experience was all he needed to succeed. He poured his life savings into the new venture and began developing piston rings, his sights set on a potentially massive contract from the giant Toyota Motor Corporation. The result was a profound and deeply public humiliation. He proudly produced a batch of 50 samples and submitted them to Toyota for their rigorous quality testing. The verdict was swift and brutal. Of the 50, only 3 met their minimum quality standards. The rest were rejected as useless scrap metal. His intuitive knowledge, which had served him so well in the repair shop, had failed him spectacularly in the unforgiving world of precision manufacturing. He had hit a wall, a barrier of scientific principle that his raw talent could not break through. He realized there was a vast chasm between making it work and making it perfect. The answer lay in the domain he had always arrogantly despised: formal education. He needed to understand metallurgy, the science of casting, the complex chemistry of silicon alloys he had ignored. In an act of incredible humility that would define his character, Soichiro Honda, the company president and a locally famous mechanic, enrolled as a part-time student at the Hamamatsu Industrial Institute. He was a figure of curiosity and ridicule, the factory boss attending classes with boys half his age, his face still scarred from his racing crash. He endured the whispers and the stares, his focus laser-sharp on one thing only: the knowledge he needed to conquer the piston ring. He became a man obsessed, a ghost haunting his own factory. He lived in a small room on site, sleeping on a cot, his every waking moment consumed by the problem. He studied academic theory by day and ran countless experiments by night, relentlessly testing different formulations and casting techniques, often working until he collapsed from exhaustion. He treated the problem not as a business obstacle, but as a personal enemy that had to be utterly defeated. This single-mindedness famously annoyed the school's administration. When he completed his studies, the director refused to grant him a diploma, stating that he had only focused on what he needed for his business and had not sat for the final exams to master the full curriculum. Honda's legendary reply cemented his life's philosophy. A diploma? A diploma is worth less than a movie ticket. A movie ticket guarantees that you can get into the theater. A diploma doesn't guarantee that you can make a living. He had the knowledge he needed. The piece of paper was irrelevant. After 2 grueling years of this monomaniacal focus, he finally had his breakthrough. By understanding the science behind the art, he perfected the casting process. He won the coveted contract from Toyota. Tokai Seiki grew into a major, successful supplier, employing over 2,000 people at its peak. He had not just learned how to make piston rings, he had learned how to learn, conquering his own arrogance in the process. Then, the world descended into the chaos of World War II. His factories were pressed into service for the Japanese war effort, manufacturing parts for aircraft and naval vessels. And then, inevitably, they became a target. B-29 bombers began their devastating raids on Japan's industrial centers, and Honda's Yamashita plant was heavily damaged in a direct hit. His resilience and ingenuity during this period were legendary. Instead of despairing, he led his workers out after the raids to scavenge for discarded auxiliary gasoline cans dropped by the American bombers. He famously called them President Truman's little gifts, and used the high-quality steel as a precious raw material to keep production going. A small act of defiance amidst national collapse. The final, crushing blow was not man-made. In January 1945, the Mikawa earthquake, a violent tremor, struck the region. What was left of his main factory crumbled into dust. The war ended shortly after, leaving Japan a broken, defeated nation, and Honda, a man whose hard-won company was now just a pile of rubble and memories. He sold the salvageable remains of his piston ring business to Toyota for 450,000 yen, a significant sum at the time. For the first time in his adult life, he stopped completely. He took a full year off, a period of profound incubation and observation. He bought a large tank of ethyl alcohol, built a makeshift distillery in his garden, and spent his days drinking, thinking, and, most importantly, watching the world around him. He watched his countrymen trying to rebuild their lives from the ashes. He saw the desperate, aching need for mobility. There was no fuel for the few cars that remained. Public transport was a wreck, and the nation was on its feet. He famously watched his own wife, Sachi, exhaust herself cycling for miles to buy rice on the black market. The problem of mobility was not an abstract market opportunity. It was a daily, personal struggle he witnessed in his own home.
The solution arrived in the form of surplus military junk. He came across a cache of 500 tiny two-stroke generator engines, originally designed by Tohatsu to power radio sets for the Imperial Army. They were noisy, smoky, and crude, but they were available, and they were engines. The idea that sparked in his mind was simple, elegant, and born of pure necessity. He and a small team of helpers began to bolt these engines onto standard bicycles. It was a clumsy, greasy affair, often requiring a custom-milled mounting bracket, but it worked. The Bada Bada, nicknamed for the choo-choo sound it made as it chugged down the road, was born. It was the first primitive Honda vehicle. It was an immediate, explosive sensation. In a country starved for any form of powered transport, it was a lifeline, a taste of freedom. The initial supply of 500 engines sold out almost instantly. Honda knew he had found his next great mission. He had to design and build his own better engine from the ground up. On September 24, 1948, the Honda Motor Company was officially incorporated. Its headquarters was a tiny 170-square-foot wooden shack in Hamamatsu. Its starting capital was minimal, but its mission was monumental: to put the power of mobility into the hands of a people struggling to rise from defeat. Honda was the undisputed engineering soul of the new company, a whirlwind of creative energy. But the company itself was a financial disaster. He was a brilliant inventor, but a disastrous businessman, constantly spending every last yen on research and new machinery, leaving the company perpetually on the brink of collapse and unable to pay its handful of employees. He desperately needed an alter ego, a partner who could navigate the world of money he so despised. In 1949, that alter ego appeared. A mutual acquaintance introduced him to Takeo Fujisawa, a man who was his perfect opposite in every conceivable way. Where Honda was fiery, impulsive, and intuitive, his hands perpetually dirty, Fujisawa was calm, strategic, and a visionary of finance and marketing, always dressed in a crisp, immaculate suit. Their first meeting was a fusion of two essential opposing elements. Honda, covered in grease from the workshop, passionately spoke of his engineering dreams, of building the best engines in the world. Fujisawa listened intently, and with his unique genius, saw not just a machine, but a global market. He saw a path through the financial chaos that Honda created. He saw the future. They struck a partnership that would become the stuff of business legend, sealed not with a complex legal document, but with a handshake and a deep mutual understanding. They agreed on a complete and total separation of duties. Honda would have absolute control over all aspects of engineering, research, and production. Fujisawa would have absolute control over all aspects of finance, sales, and marketing. They trusted each other implicitly, and for the next 25 years, almost never interfered in the other's domain. "I'll make the products," Honda famously said. "You get the money to do it." This partnership was the rocket fuel the company desperately needed. With Fujisawa brilliantly securing funds from skeptical bankers and building a national dealer network from scratch, Honda was freed to do what he did best: invent. In 1949, he released the Dream D-Type, the company's first true motorcycle, with a proper pressed steel frame and a two-stroke engine. The name itself was a powerful statement of intent. But even with Fujisawa's genius, disaster loomed.
The Korean War in the early 1950s created a short-term artificial boom for Japanese industry. When it ended, the economy slumped dramatically. Honda's sales plummeted, unsold inventory piled up in their yard, and bankruptcy was once again an imminent threat. Fujisawa was forced to lay off workers and plead with lenders for extensions, while Honda raged in the factory, frustrated by a problem he couldn't solve with a wrench. It was during these dark, desperate times that Honda's infamous management style was forged and solidified. He was a volcano of a boss, stalking the factory floor, his eyes darting everywhere, inspecting every detail. If he found a tool left out of place or a part that wasn't machined to his impossible standards, he would scream, shout, and sometimes even strike his engineers with a wrench or a piece of the faulty part. Yet, he was strangely beloved. His workers nicknamed this side of him Kaminari-san, Mr. Thunder, understanding that his fury was not personal malice, but a pure, unfiltered, and uncontrollable passion for quality. He drove them as hard as he drove himself, demanding nothing less than absolute perfection. His rage was the rage of a creator against imperfection. To conquer the world and prove the quality of his machines beyond any doubt, Honda knew he needed to win on the ultimate stage. He set his sights on the most grueling, prestigious, and dangerous motorcycle race in the world, the Isle of Man Tourist Trophy, TT, a time trial race held on 37 miles of treacherous, winding public roads. In 1954, 5 years before he would even enter a machine in the race, Honda traveled to the Isle of Man simply to watch. The experience was a profound and humbling shock. The speed, power, and sophistication of the Western bikes from Germany's NSU, Italy's Moto Guzzi, and Britain's Norton were on another level entirely. He saw firsthand the massive technological gap he had to close. His current machines were, in comparison, primitive. Instead of despair, he felt an electrifying surge of determination. He returned to Japan and issued a public declaration, a manifesto to his employees and the world, stating that Honda Motor Company would enter the Isle of Man TT and that they would pour all their energy and resources into winning it. It was a stunningly audacious, almost arrogant promise from a small company few outside Japan had ever heard of. The first attempt in 1959 was a lesson in humility. The team managed to finish 6th, 7th, 8th, and 11th in the 125 cubic centimeters ultra-lightweight class, winning the manufacturer's prize through sheer persistence as other teams dropped out. But they were not truly competitive. Their engines failed, their brakes faded, and they were hopelessly outmatched in raw speed. The European press was polite but dismissive. They did not retreat. They embraced the failure with scientific rigor. The team meticulously documented every broken part, every design flaw, every overheating issue, and took the data and the broken parts themselves back to Japan. For the next 2 years, the TT became a singular obsession, driving a furious pace of innovation in multi-valve engine design, lightweight metallurgy, and high-performance chassis dynamics. When they returned to the Isle of Man in 1961, they were no longer plucky underdogs. They were a conquering army. The new, sophisticated Honda machines, with their high-revving, multi-cylinder engines, were untouchable. They took the first 5 places in both the 125 cubic centimeters and 250 cubic centimeters classes. The world of motorcycling was in absolute shock. A small company from a war-torn nation had utterly and completely humiliated the European giants in their own backyard. This victory resonated far beyond the racing world. It was a global announcement that the name Honda stood for world-class, cutting-edge engineering. Takeo Fujisawa brilliantly used this hard-won prestige as the spearhead for their most ambitious expansion yet. Their target was the United States, the largest consumer market on Earth. But the American motorcycle market of the era was a tiny, toxic niche.
Thanks to films like The Wild One, starring Marlon Brando, motorcyclists were seen as dangerous, leather-clad outlaws. Fujisawa knew that selling into this market would be impossible. He had to create a completely new one. Their weapon was the C100 Super Cub, a small, friendly, and unintimidating motorcycle with a step-through frame and a semi-automatic clutch. To sell it, Fujisawa's team conceived one of the most transformative advertising campaigns of all time. The ads didn't feature tough men, they showed respectable, smiling, happy people. A student on their way to class, a housewife running errands, a young couple on a pleasant date. The slogan was pure genius, a phrase that would change an entire culture's perception. You meet the nicest people on a Honda. The campaign didn't just sell a motorcycle, it sold a new, clean, and friendly lifestyle. It detoxified the image of two-wheeled transport in America and made the Honda Super Cub the best-selling motor vehicle of any kind in the history of the world. But Soichiro's original dream, the dream born from that hallowed drop of oil on a dusty village road, was still unfulfilled. He had to build cars. And here, in his own country, he faced his most formidable and obstinate opponent, the Japanese government. Japan's powerful Ministry of International Trade and Industry, MITI, had a rigid, centrally planned vision for the nation's industrial future. In their view, Japan already had enough car companies. They wanted to consolidate the industry around the established giants, Toyota and Nissan, to compete globally. They decreed that no new manufacturers should enter the car market. They explicitly told Soichiro Honda to stick to motorcycles. To Honda, a man who had built his entire life on defying limitations, this was an unforgivable insult. It was a challenge to his very soul as a creator, an individual, and a rebel. He had stared down bankruptcy, war, earthquakes, and the world's best racers. He would not be stopped by a government bureaucrat's decree. In a frantic and defiant race against time, he poured resources into his car projects, determined to become an established automaker before MITI could pass the new law that would have blocked him forever. In 1963, Honda stunned the Japanese establishment by releasing two vehicles in quick succession, the T360 mini truck and, more importantly, the gorgeous S500 sports car, a high-revving jewel of a machine that was essentially a racing motorcycle on four wheels. He had crashed the party and forced his way into the automotive club. The true global breakthrough, however, came from an international crisis. In the early 1970s, the United States passed the Clean Air Act, a strict new set of emission standards that sent the world's automakers into a panic. The giants of Detroit lobbied furiously against the law, claiming it was impossible to meet the standards without performance-killing, expensive catalytic converters. Honda saw the crisis not as a threat, but as a golden opportunity to prove his company's engineering superiority. He gave his young engineers an almost impossible task: build an engine that could meet the strict new American standards cleanly, efficiently, and without a catalytic converter. He challenged them to solve the problem with fundamental engineering, not with a chemical band-aid. The result was the CVCC, Compound Vortex Controlled Combustion, engine, a masterpiece of lean burn technology that used a small pre-combustion chamber to ignite a leaner air-fuel mixture in the main cylinder. In 1973, just as the OPEC oil crisis brought the Western world to its knees and created massive lines at gas stations, the Honda Civic, powered by the miraculous CVCC engine, arrived in America. It was small, affordable, fun to drive, sipped fuel, and was one of the only cars that easily met the new emissions laws without a converter. It was the perfect car for the perfect time, a David and Goliath victory that embarrassed the world's largest car companies and turned Honda into a global automotive force overnight. That same year, 1973, with their company at the absolute pinnacle of its success and their dreams fully realized, Soichiro Honda and Takeo Fujisawa did the unthinkable.
At the company's 25th anniversary celebration, they announced that they were both resigning. At the height of their power, they walked away, handing the company they had bled for over to a new generation of leadership. It was their final, greatest lesson, that a company's spirit, its Honda DNA, must be stronger than any single individual. Soichiro Honda's life stands as a powerful testament to the idea that failure is not an endpoint, but the essential, fiery fuel for innovation. He built a global empire not by conquering others, but by relentlessly conquering engineering problems. An empire founded not on acquisitions, but on the relentless, unstoppable, and greasy-handed power of a dream.